Welcome back to the Traders Network. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. Thanks for joining us. We're also streaming to you live on yorbamedia.com and broadcasting to you from the Dallas KFXR 1190 AM Clear Channel studios. All right, my first guests were Dr. Robin Smith, Chairman and CEO, NeoStem, ticker symbol, you might want to jot this one down, NBS. This is Robin's second time on the show, and if you missed the first time she was on the show, just to give you a little brief, NeoStem develops and manufactures cell therapies for its proprietary technology and platforms for the cell therapy industry, and their stock has gone up significantly since she was last on the show. So somebody really likes this and they are buying it. All right. Robin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
All right, my pleasure. Let's slow down a little bit. We've got two segments with you today, and I'm so happy that you came back. Let me back up a little bit, and you can give our audience a better flavor for what your company does before we get into the different things that we were going to talk about today. Can you give us give us a narration on that?
Absolutely. So we take cells of the body and turn them into therapies to treat diseases where currently there's really no way to cure the disease or restore function, but actually just treat symptoms. So there's a shift in medicine using, these cells are natural body repair mechanism, and we're amplifying that and developing therapies. So it's an exciting time.
Okay, talk to us about NeoStem's integrated business model. Both on development and the novel proprietary cell therapy.
Yeah, so, usually when you look at biotech companies, they are developing therapies as a standalone. So you have to go through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 to commercial before you generate revenues. Our business has a contract manufacturing service to the industry as a whole where we generate revenue from clients who are developing cell therapy products and use us for our expertise and our infrastructure for manufacturing. So we service the industry of regenerative medicine, and then that allows us to cost-effectively and efficiently develop our own internal products in areas like cardiovascular disease, autoimmune imbalance, and regenerative medicine.
Now, you said that there was a shift in modern healthcare. Open that up for us and tell us about that.
So, for 30 years, we've used stem cells. It's called a bone marrow transplant. And people don't realize that. It's a way that after chemotherapy, when you don't have an immune system, if you need one, you can take cells from a donor, from the cord blood, or from a donor through bone marrow aspirate or apheresis, and those cells can be put into you to give you a new immune system. You just need to find a match. And what we're realizing is that there are other cells in our immune system that can do other things. So there's companies working on taking dendritic vaccines and making therapeutic cancer vaccines. So, for example, with glioblastoma, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, people are making a vaccine once you've been diagnosed to keep that cancer, away and from spreading. There's ways to use natural killer cells, CD34 cells, T cells, different parts of your immune system where you can take those cells, do something to them, and put them back into the body to restore function or to repair damaged tissue.
How many different cures is NeoStem working on with, obviously, and their clients too, but that you're working on with your clients, I should say?
So we're developing cell therapy products. We have the most advanced is to treat a patient after an acute heart attack, and we just completed enrollment of our phase 2 trial in December, so we should have data by the end available by the end of the summer. And now we're advancing into other indications in cardiovascular disease, for example, congestive heart failure, potentially traumatic brain injury. And then we also are using a different cell type to rebalance a person's immune system for things like type 1 diabetes, steroid-resistant asthma. It could be advanced into MS and lupus, because over 50 million people in the United States have an autoimmune disorder like rheumatoid arthritis.
Wow, that's quite a few of the biggest problems that we've got. I'm not too familiar with phase 2. Open that up for me. What does that mean when you're going into phase 2 trials?
Well, it's exciting. It's a way to show the mechanism of action of a drug that it works or it doesn't. So what we found from our phase 1 data is that if people received 10 million cells or more, they had an improvement in their perfusion, meaning oxygen to the area of the heart where it's become ischemic. They had a decrease in the size of the damaged tissue by cardiac MR, and not one single patient that received 10 million cells or more 6 months after a heart attack had a decrease in their function, which is important because 1 in 5 people who survive a heart attack die within a year. So it's pretty exciting phase 1 data, and now we went into a phase 2 trial, 160 patients where half were treated with 10 million cells or more, half treated with just a control, to determine whether in fact this therapy looks like it is viable for the treatment after a person has a heart attack to prevent worsening of that heart muscle function.
Okay. How does that work with heart muscle functions? I'm still new to this, but I'd like you to bring that out. How do you heal that?
So when you have a heart attack, you come to the emergency room. They determine that you have an ST elevated, heart attack. You get a stent. Generally, that's what occurs. And that opens up blood flow to the area of the heart. But the problem is the area around the damage gets strained over time. So the idea is if you could take the stem cells and purify out the ones that work and inject it through the stent to the area which has the damage, those hone to the area of injury and they lay down new blood vessels, and that create what's called a paracrine effect, which causes a cascade of events to repair and lay down blood vessels in the area of damage to restore some of the function and to improve blood flow for healing.
So you're generating new blood vessels?
Yeah, that's right. You lay down new blood vessels. It's a way to increase vasculature to the area through your stem cells.
All right. I'm on your homepage of your website, and it says tissue regeneration. Is that something different than just generating new blood cells?
A little bit different. So truly the holy grail of regenerative medicine is if you could take a cell and create any cell of any organ in your body. And that's regenerative medicine, to actually repair damaged tissue and restore that function. So there's a technology that we have that's a little bit early called V cells, these very small stem cells that have a lot of the properties of an embryonic stem cell without the ethical issues, and that we believe do not cause cancer and teratoma formation. So these cells are in you and me, and we've determined that they can become different cells of different tissues of the body. So we're looking to use these cells to do things like treat macular degeneration or repair wounds or create bone. And so these are cells that are very primitive from when we were embryos and became the adults that we are, that are sort of sit in that dormant stage from immaturity, and then you can take those cells and put them where they're needed, and they become the cell type of the organs where those cells are being placed to restore damaged tissue.
Wow. Do you find that this works on all forms of injuries like you were talking about, the tissue regeneration, or is it focused on mainly the internal organs that we've been talking about?
No, we've seen fantastic results on skin. There's some approved products already, and for skin and wound repair and for orthopedic use. I think what the point is the science is which cells are right. What do you do to them? How many do you give? And how do you give them for each different clinical indication where they're needed? And it may be a different cell type based on what it is you're trying to achieve. And sometimes it's your own cells that work best. Sometimes it's another cell that works best of another donor. So that's this whole science is around which are the right cells, how do you deliver them, how many do you give, and what's the mode of delivery that will work to repair and restore damaged tissue.
Well, I want to commend you on your work because this is stuff that this is a global need for your product and your services. Let's do this. Let's take a break here now and then cover the rest of our topics on the other side of the segment. And maybe then you could tell us a little bit more about what's going on with the company in general and talk to some of the investment questions that may come up that normally would come up in a presentation that you would make to, say, a group of investors. Okay?
Great.
All right, we'll be right back on the other side of this break with Robin Smith, Dr. Robin Smith, Chairman and CEO, NeoStem. NBS is the symbol. You might want to look this up. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Traders Network. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. Thanks for joining us. We're also streaming to you live on yorbamedia.com and broadcasting to you from the Dallas Clear Channel 1190 AM studios. All right, I have Dr. Robin Smith, Chairman and CEO of NeoStem, and it's a NASDAQ listed company. NBS is the symbol. Robin, I want to start with, if I can, the phase 2 studies that you're about to go into with diabetes. But I was looking on your website. Before we get into that, I see stem cell banking. I went to the bottom of that page and I saw a Institute of Antiaging, and it brought a question up. What you're doing, is that breakthrough technology for anti-aging, for actually keeping us young?
Well, our stem cells are how we repair our tissue, and so the more you can repair damage from the environment or from aging, the longer we'll live and the healthier we'll be able to live. So, yeah, there is an anti-aging component to stem cells, and the question is, how can they best be used, and how do you keep those stem cells that you have healthy so that they can continue to repair damaged tissue as we age and have insults from our environment?
So we can eventually, through what you're doing, we're going to be able to actually find the fountain of youth. Is that, or is that just too far out, too far reaching to the statement?
I think it's that's in the distance, but I think more importantly, it's the fountain of health.
Okay.
Right? You don't want to just live longer. You want to live well. You want to be functional. So I think the idea is that, you could have a heart attack and then be on all kinds of medication, and with time your heart muscle function gets worse. You get more heart attacks, congestive heart failure, but if you could actually repair that damaged tissue, you still can go out and do the exercise and go to work and do everything that you did before the heart attack. So it's not just about longevity, but it's about a healthy life.
So you can make sick people healthier. Not just repair a heart issue or diabetes, but you actually make sick people healthier.
Yeah, instead of treating symptoms, we're actually trying to cure the underlying cause of disease. So that leads into our T cell program for type 1 diabetes, because when people first get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, there's what's called a honeymoon period. And during that time, the pancreas is still able to make insulin, but the body is fighting it and killing those cells. So the theory is that if you can intervene during that time and stop the body from killing the pancreatic islet cells, you are able to keep the pancreas functional so that the person doesn't need to get those insulin shots the rest of their life. So we're creating a program, a therapy, using the person's T cells to actually rebalance their immune system. And early studies have been pretty exciting, showing a couple of patients actually are off of insulin.
Wow. That's impressive. What about cancer? Is there hopes that this can be stretched out to cure cancer too?
Yeah, we have a couple of clients that we actually help turn dendritic cells into vaccines so that they're making therapeutic vaccines for people that have cancer. There's a lot of technology that they're looking at to actually sort of target the cancer-causing stem cell. Because think about it, if you have cancer and you have chemotherapy and you kill those cancer cells, how come the cancer comes back?
Right.
Well, the belief is that you have stem cells that are that cancer-causing stem cells. So if you can identify those and kill those cells, you can cure the person indefinitely, as opposed to just putting them into remission and having that cancer come back. So it's an exciting time where we're, really having breakthroughs in medicine toward, curing disease.
Yes, definitely, especially with what you're doing in your company. All right, when you were on the show back in December, your stock was trading somewhere below $6.25. And now it's trading over $7. And I'm a technical, if I could say it, I could be one. I'm a technical analyst going back some 30 years. And it is showing very favorable signs of growth. Talk to us about the business side of what you're doing. We've addressed the scientific side, and there's more to come there. But talk to us about, why are people buying your stock? What is going on the business side that makes people put money into your stock and move it from 6 to 7?
Well, I think anytime you're developing a therapy or treatment, there are three things that people worry about. One is, will you have the money to get to that next phase of development? Two is, are you going to be able to enroll the patients in the clinical trial that gets you toward that next milestone? And three, the manufacturing risk. do you have manufacturing sorted out in such a way that you don't have a problem turning those cells into therapies? So in October, we completed a financing. We raised over $40 million. So the financing risk is no longer there. In December 16th, we completed enrollment in the clinical trial. So we showed that our management has now a track record of getting these clinical trials enrolled. And 3, because we have our internal manufacturing capabilities, we do it for clients and we can do it for ourselves. That risk of manufacturing is no longer what it would be for other companies who, don't have the same capabilities.
Now, I understand that you are also one of the nation's leaders, and you're ranked number 1 for the second year in a row by Deloitte in 2013. Tell us more about what they thought about your business practices.
Yeah, we were really proud of that because we had, we're with great peers from, companies like Celgene, who's, done so well in developing therapeutics for cancer. So we're really excited. They, look at your revenues and your growth over a 5-year period, and, we've just accelerated in our ability to start, from scratch, if you will, and bring the assets together that we need to lead the industry and generate revenue. So people are excited, and, we received the award 2 years in a row, and we're obviously hoping for the trifecta.
Well, you just might get it with what I'm hearing from you now. You're also one of the fastest growing companies in your sector. Talk to me about how you've differentiated yourself from the other companies to obtain that title.
Well, instead of building from scratch, we built the company through acquisition. We acquired the talent, the operations, and the assets to really lead the industry. So it allowed us to do this very quickly. We've done 5 M&A transactions, 1 divestiture, and we've raised about $180 million. So we've really been able to fuel the pump and bring in those key assets. And I think having the manufacturing is a real edge for us because we can generate revenues from the industry. We can lower the cost of goods. We can focus on things that the industry needs as a whole. And not only does it benefit our clients, but it benefits our internal development. So we've created a very unique model that seems to be exciting Wall Street and investors. And we're just looking forward to some of the data readouts that we have in summer, which will include the phase 1 type 1 diabetes trial, as well as the phase 2 cardiac therapy trial to treat a person after they have an acute heart attack.
Well, now that you've made several acquisitions, I understand the manufacturing is a big part of that, and it's definitely an edge. What are some of the acquisitions that you've made? Because there are many parts to your company.
Well, so in January of 2011, we bought the contract manufacturing business that is really sort of the fueling. It's our infrastructure. And then we bought the cardiac asset, which had incredible intellectual property and very, very exciting phase 1 data. And so we're really excited now that we've completed a phase 2 trial to get that data, that will evaluate whether this therapy, can be used to treat a person after the heart attack. And we've developed this relationship with UCSF and Jeff Bluestone to take his technology and the technology from UCSF and Penn and that work on T cells, how to isolate them, expand them, and deliver them back to the patient for these autoimmune disorders. And that saves us money and time in that we can go right into that phase 2 study this summer. So it's been a great way to grow the company quickly, and we've brought on fantastic talent. And, we're always excited when we can recruit someone who really has been successful in the field because they're choosing us. And so we think that's a real validation that our model is unique and exciting, and they want to be a part of it.
I really appreciate that. All right, are there any white papers, any other events that are coming up in your future where our audience can follow up with you and become more involved?
Well, we're always in different investor conferences, and if you go on our Yahoo page, it always says the first or second day of each month where we'll be the rest of the month. And, if you want to see white papers or a little more detail on the journal articles to support our technology, you can come to www.neostem.com, neostem.com, and people can always reach out and call us directly at 212-584-4174, and we're happy to answer any questions people have, and we just urge everyone to follow the story because it's an exciting time in healthcare, and if we can improve clinical outcomes and lower healthcare costs, it's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you for saving all these lives. I really appreciate that, Dr. Robin Smith.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. All right, that was Dr. Robin Smith, Chairman, CEO, NeoStem, symbol NBS. You can reach him at neostem.com. And special thanks to Monk Media and 1-800 Public Relations for all their PR and media support. All right, coming up next on our show, we've got Eric Von Hoffe. He is the president of Antiaging Express, another breakthrough company. We'll be right back.